Hi, and welcome to Eclipse season. This is our first eclipse for September, and it's one of two, and it's going to happen on September 7th, 2025. It will be happening at 15 degrees Pisces. And true to Pisces energy, this is an eclipse that has a lot of intuition threaded throughout it, especially since we have two channels that are activated for this eclipse that are going to be able to give you some level of downloads for everybody, really, because when you have a channel like that, we all have access to the energy. We have the 6447 and we also have the 5720, and they're completely different energies, but intuition is found in many parts of the body graph. And these are two different types of intuition. One is individual intuition, that's a 5720, and the other is abstract intuition, which is a 6447. Now, of course, the 6447 doesn't always have to be intuition. It can also be making sense of the past, understanding why things happened the way they did, and kind of filtering through your memories in the past and sort of picking out what matters so that you can use it for your life and to evolve in some way. So it's about looking at the experiences that you've gone through, picking out what matters, and using it on your journey forward. But the other perspective is it is connected, as in all the head gates, 64, 63, and also 61 are all connected to superconsciousness. And so we have this channel that is activated. It brings us the pressure to figure things out, but it also brings this level of confusion and then realization that comes with gate 47. But instead of just having the pressure from gate 64 of why things happen the way they did, what matters, what's important to pull out of your memories for your life, we also have gate 47, which is allowing the energy of the confusion to be sorted through, what's important to be put in its place, and to give you some level of remembrance, a memory, to get all the value from the memories that you have for your life. And that's what this is giving. But again, you could have some major downloads come through, some aha moments, some epiphanies that just come out of the blue. Now that's a great energy to have. It's a great intuition to have. But because we also have gate 63 activated by the Earth and the Moon, then we look at this perspective of doubt and suspicion. Now, they're both in the fifth line, 63 line 5 and also 64 line 5, which brings some level of projection, expectation, but also it does kind of factor into relationships. When you're sorting through your memories, you could be sorting through your memories in connection to relationships and trying to discover what works, what doesn't work, who is the right person for you. And that is sort of an overarching theme to this eclipse as well, where you're sort of going through the information of your memories, looking at how things played out and understanding what that means for you and who's with you for the journey and who isn't. Now, when you look at the fact that we have the 360 channel in play, this is the end of a cycle. This is a time of transcending and transforming. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, but when you are transforming and changing and mutating and evolving, a lot of times the things that you used to align with no longer fit anymore. And so in the background, we all have this 360 channel until the 12th of September that's saying, is this right for you? And, of course, because it's Pluto, it's a slow moving planet. So it's going to take time to change your sort of idea of what you want or what you don't want to transform. But don't be surprised if you start to see things in a different way, especially with this eclipse, because this is a culmination. This is a full moon lunar eclipse. But once again, with the Earth and the Moon in gate 63, line 5, this is the whole saying, the old saying where they say, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. In other words, it could be easy to get very skeptical, very doubtful about pretty much everything, your relationships, and to want to get rid of everything and not really have a backup plan. And that can happen, especially because we have Venus in gate 7, line 3. Gate 7, line 3 is called the Anarchist. And that is where we're basically throwing everything out, smashing everything down, but we don't have a backup plan. But this is also a really great energy, and all third line energy is the same in that a third line energy in its highest expression, is always searching for the truth. And when it uncovers the truth, then it shows everybody else. Now, why do a lot of third line energies, struggle and find it difficult in life? Well, it's because people don't always want to know the truth, even if they need to know the truth. A lot of times we want to live in an illusion, especially with the way the world has become all about games and virtual reality. It's very easy to not want to accept the truth, but the third line is here to uncover the truth. But having said that, on the other side, a third line is the best energy to not tell the truth, to see the truth, but to cover it up. But what we need in this world are anarchists who tell the truth, who break down the systems that no longer work, who see the faults in the world that everybody else sees is fine. Venus is there to show the truth, but there's always this perspective of balance in all things. And it can be easy to want to just break everything down and not really have a backup plan. And that can work in some ways, but it doesn't always work. And so this may be a time to step into that awareness, to step into that concept of this is the truth. Now, what will I do with it? And then with Jupiter in gate 53, line 5, this is a new beginning. So we're starting a new beginning based on what we have discovered through this eclipse. The culmination of everything is bringing things to the surface. We also have Mars and Uranus making up the 2057 channel. This is awareness in the now. And this is especially awareness of survival. With Mars in there, this is actual survival that can be in situations that are precarious. Mars is bringing you the information you need to protect yourself in the most assertive and intense way to protect your physicality. But it also brings the concept of seeing information that is important to you. It can bring information about the future. Now, when we get to the 57 line 6, that's where Mars is, it's juxtaposed, which means that it is equally potentially giving you the exaltation as well as the detriment. And this is sort of a special energy. It shows up usually as a star or two triangles on a body graph. But what this is saying is that it can move from one side to the other. One side says that intuition can give us information about things that we may not know information about. So as we know, right, it can bring this information that we don't necessarily have access to logically or experientially or any other way other than intuition comes to us in some way. This usually is intuition that comes through your body as opposed to through your mind. But with gate 57 line 6, the detriment is this concept of if I can't have my intuition all the time be 100% accurate, or other people can't have 100% accurate intuition, then I don't believe any of it. It's all garbage. And we know that nothing is foolproof, especially intuition. It can come and it can go. And how we look at it is another way that we can sometimes miss the mark. Sometimes we only want to look at it in a negative way, or we only want to look at it in a positive way. I always say I can't read tarot cards because every time I look at tarot cards, I always want to see the good stuff. I don't want to see anything else. And so I cannot read tarot cards because I can't get my mind out of it and let my intuition work with it. And so for me, I like patterns, and that's how I sort of look at my intuition and patterns and what the future might bring. So that's how I use it. We all have our way. And this type of intuition is not going to always work. If it's patterns, if it's tarot cards, if it's crystals, if it's whatever you decide, if it's just this inner knowing that just comes to you in a hit, which, that's part of it. We match it with Uranus in gate 20, line 2. This is called the dogmatist. And again, this is bringing this perspective of a very narrow view. Instead of saying, my intuition can be more expansive and maybe it will give me more information, and then I can sort of look through it and decide what it's actually telling me, and kind of feel what it feels like. What does the energy want to show me? What does the energy want to tell me? Feel through the energy, as opposed to saying, oh, it says this and that's exactly what it is, and it's either good or it's bad, it's black or it's white. It's not, there's no in between. And this is what this energy with Uranus and Mars together can bring. But having said that, this is the most intuitive energy of the body graph. And it's not just that. It is intuition that goes directly to your throat. So in other words, you can speak things out of the blue, intuitive hits, and just you say, well, where did that come from? So that's why when this energy is in play, and it's going to be in play off and on, but especially for this eclipse, to get out a notebook and just write down all these intuitive hits that you might get, or things that you say that just seem very odd. One time I was at a friend's house and her husband came home from work, and I immediately said, "Congratulations on your new job" to him. And I don't know where it came from. There was no reason for me to say it. There was nothing that I knew about. And in fact, he had just gotten a new job and he hadn't even told my friend who was his wife that he'd gotten this new job. And it was right. But that's the kind of intuition that can come. It doesn't happen all the time for me. And maybe it was a transit that I was under at that particular time. But these are the types of things that can happen. So keep that in mind and document whatever comes up. But ultimately, with the skepticism, it's easy to discount what you're believing. Write it down anyways. See what happens. See what doesn't happen. And it's a great test in your intuition because in the future, in 2027 and beyond, we are going to be depending on our intuition like it is as important as learning how to drive a car, learning how to swim, learning how to cook meals, learning how to take care of ourselves. Intuition is going to be something that is not a luxury, it will be a necessity. And I don't have any way to prove that other than that's exactly what I feel based on all the research I've been doing and continue to do. So this is a time, especially through this eclipse, to jump into that energy, to feel what it feels like, to understand the different types of intuition, because abstract intuition doesn't come the same as individual intuition. If you have part of the integration channels, or even all of the integration channels, you may know how this intuition works. It works in a certain way for you and you're comfortable with it. But if you don't, then you may sort of need to learn because we always have access to some energy that isn't necessarily something we always have. We have access to a gate or a gate that brings a channel for us, or we have access to a channel that we don't normally have. We have access to activations of centers. So this is a time to use that information to your benefit and decide what it means to you. How can you use it in your life? And how can you move forward? So it's a wonderful eclipse for all those reasons. But again, there's always going to be that level of skepticism that is in the background and potentially skepticism about everything. Someone might even give you an intuitive hit and it might be really, really spot on. But because you are so skeptical, you won't believe it. But again, this is about stepping into your own intuition. And if somebody gives you sort of an intuitive hit, feeling into it. What does that feel like? Again, this is a feeling energy of your body. This intuition comes from the body. Now, the other intuition is your outer authority. It comes from your mind. It comes from pondering. That's the 6447. It's about pondering. The answers that you're going to get from the activation of the Ajna and Head Center, the 6447 channel, are things that come when its time is right. This is about right timing. When the timing is right, the clarity comes. The aha moment comes. You cannot force that to give you what you want it to give you. It will come at that moment. And sometimes it's just the oddest thing. Somebody will say something that they've said before, or you'll walk down the same street and you'll notice something, or something will kind of click on out of the blue. And that's the type of intuition that the 6447 brings. Now with the 5720, that is an in the moment hit, which will not come again. So that's why I said, if you have a notebook or type it out or voice memo, whatever you want to do, say this, unless you have a really great memory, then if you do, then that's perfect too. But ultimately, this is giving everyone the information and the intuition that you need for your life. And this is a wonderful time to step into it and to let go of the skepticism in that you're remaining in a healthy perspective as opposed to being an all or none. It is very much a time globally that we might see an activation of conspiracy theories, more people talking about conspiracy theories. It is also a time where we may see leaders who are trying to diffuse people who want more information, trying to keep things in a very box style way where they're keeping the information for themselves, but they don't want to share it necessarily with everybody else. And they want other people to believe this is what it is, this is how it is. And that is another perspective. There could be a curation of what the leaders want people to believe, even if it's not necessarily true. And that is another thing. So, yes, skepticism is 100% important. It is valuable, but when it becomes too much of everything is something to be skeptical about, then that's where we sometimes have to step back and say, okay, what is actually going on? Am I getting too far down the rabbit hole? And let's just kind of pull it back a little bit and see, is there something that is true that I can align with? And even, check the facts, check what people are saying. If somebody says something, even if it's somebody that you believe, I always say that even if it's somebody that you believe and they're generally a really good source, well, they may not have the right information. They may be giving you something that they believe is true, but it's not necessarily true. So, yes, skepticism is always helpful and beneficial as long as it's done in a very healthy and balanced way. And one final thing to say is, again, there's a lot of projection and expectation within this energy. And Jupiter is bringing gate 53 line 5, and this is talking about a new beginning. The theme with this energy is sometimes if you're planning a new beginning, you're deciding to start something new, sometimes it's better to keep it to yourself. There's another line in gate 2 that has the same perspective. Just keep it to yourself because there's potential for this whole crabs in a barrel kind of thing where you might actually have a planned new beginning, something that you want to do, something that you're planning to do and you've been planning to do. It's well thought of. It's something that is not hasty and you're ready to go and somebody wants to stop you. It could be jealousy. It could be jealousy. It could be expectation that maybe they're going to lose you because you want to start something new. It could be relationships want to pull you back. Again, when we mutate, when we change, people don't always like that we are changing, and we don't always like that people want to pull us back. And this is where Jupiter in gate 53 line 5 can want to pull you back. Now, this could be spiritual practices that are pulling you back. Oh no, if you're really spiritual, you wouldn't do this. That's one of them. It could be in school, higher education. It could be rules and regulations. It could be anything expansive. And again, because it's a fifth line, again, with this could be relationships. So ultimately, keep it to yourself if possible. If necessary, you can always tell people that you feel are trustworthy, but it might work to your advantage to sort of go with what feels right for you and not necessarily broadcast what you're going to do when you're starting these bold new beginnings. This looks like a wonderful time for intuition, to step into it, to get as much as you can. And if you look at the perspective that skepticism is also there, then I think you should sail through this eclipse with ease. And with that said, I hope you have a wonderful eclipse ahead. And until next time, take care and bye for now.